So now that we understand how repeat until works with a simple variable, let's see if we can create an example that's a little bit more useful. So here's a brand new sketch, and I'm just going to put the cat down in the corner here, and I'm going to paint a brand new sprite. And what we're going to do is we're just going to make a cannonball that starts on the left-hand side of the screen and just comes across the screen and comes down over here somewhere. We might not hit the cat, but we'll come over that way in any case. Now, to do that, the first thing I need to do is create a cannonball. So I'm going to paint a new sprite, and I'm going to click on Convert to Vector here to make it look a little bit nicer. I will click on the ellipse. I'm holding down Shift so that I can make a circle nice and easy, and then I'll use the paint bucket here and make it black. Okay, now that looks a little bit large to me, so I'm going to click on the Select button, hold down Shift, and just make it a little bit smaller. There we go. That looks more like a cannonball. Now, there is a really common problem that can happen that isn't to do with your coding, but rather to do with the costume that you've just made. So you need to set the center of that costume to be the center of the cannonball. And to do that, I'm just going to click on this Set Costume Center. So right now, it's completely off the cannonball. So I'm just going to click and drag and let go when it's right in the middle. So now we've got our cannonball all set up. I'll drag it over here into the corner, and what we want to do, as I said, is just have it move in kind of a parabolic motion like that. So a simple way to do that is going to be create a variable. So I'm going to make a variable called x speed and another variable called y speed, and we're going to use those just to make this thing move. So right off the bat, let's say that we set this up for when the space key is pressed. And what we want to do is first make the cannonball go back to its original location. So under motion, I'm just going to tell it to go to this location that I'm at right now. And then we want to set up some speeds for x and y. So for example, let's just pick some speeds to attempt. So we'll do this set twice, and I'll start with the x speed. So we want it to move left to right. Since this is a Cartesian plane, that means we want the x value to increase. So let's pick a number and say 3. And we can adjust this later, it doesn't really matter. But we'll just say 3. And then for the y speed, we want it to begin by moving upward, which also means I want to add some values. So let's just say that is a 3 as well. And now what I really want to do is I want this cannonball to keep on moving until eventually it touches the ground or gets close to it. And if you look at these values right here, the x and y values, you can see that my y value, when my cursor is right here at the bottom, is about -180. So really, I want this thing to keep on going until the y value is less than -180. So to do that, we're going to go to Control. I'm going to grab the Repeat Until block. And I'm going to say, let's repeat until, and I'll grab a less than operator, and we'll say repeat until, and this time it's not the speed that we want, so it can't actually be these variables that we made. There's a built-in variable under motion, if you scroll to the bottom, that gives us the y position. So we want to ask, is the y position of this sprite less than -180? And we just want to repeat until that happens. Now, what exactly do we want to have change? Well, we want to change its x and y position over and over until eventually this occurs. So let's try that. So under motion, we're just going to say, let's change x by some amount and change y by some amount. Now, we don't want it to be hard-coded 10. We want to put in our variables that we made. So let's go back to data and change the x speed. Put in the x speed for my change and put in the y speed for how much I change y by. Now if I press the space key right now, what's going to happen is it just continues to move in a linear motion right up to the top of my stage there. And the reason that happened is that although we probably want our horizontal motion to have the same speed at all times, we want the vertical to begin by moving up, but then we want it to slowly come back down. So in order to have that happen, we need to change what the y speed is as this program runs. So let's add in one more little bit here, and we will say, not only do I want to change x and y, but I also want to change the y speed. So let's say we change it, and we want to decrease it so that it moves downward, and we can pick a value. So let's say we changed it by something that probably will look silly off the bat, but like, let's say -1. And if we press the space bar, so it plops down pretty much instantaneously there. So -1's a little much. Let's go -0.1 and see what that looks like. Okay, good. So now we have parabolic motion. You can see the values occurring up here. Now that might be a little far. The ball is kind of sinking into the ground right now. So if you want, you can change this value to be maybe, I don't know, -160 or something instead. We can see how that looks. Pretty close. If you want, you can adjust that to your heart's content until it looks just right to you. Great, and we have a ball now that's moving in parabolic motion and stopping. And again, the important thing to remember here is that we are just using a repeat until because we don't know in advance how many times we want these things to occur. And I can easily change these values. So I could say, let's shoot it higher, faster at the start, so it goes a little higher first and then works its way down. Or I could change its X speed as well. And we can alter those values, and everything else should work just fine. It should still be able to shoot.